Welcome to the Today Counts show. Today does count because it impacts, it influences your tomorrow and the day after that and the day after that. The Today Counts podcast is sponsored by the generous donors of the Lead Today community. I'm your host, Kim Piper. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Today Counts show. I want to read to you a scripture. It's out of the New Testament. Let's see. It is, where did I put that, Titus? Oh, Luke 14:33. This is Jesus speaking. And I'm going to just kind of go into the verse a little bit. He says, every one of you who does not say goodbye to all his possessions cannot be my disciple. That's a tough one. That's one that gets concrete thinkers messed up. Abstract thinkers being philosophical, but it's usually an issue of the heart sooner or later. The reason why I've read that to you all is because my guest today is Titus Blair, and he actually did that with his family. He actually sold off everything that he had, and he went on the mission field. So I'm sure we're going to get to talk about that today because that is a cool story in and of itself. But he's also a tech guy, and I'm not a tech guy. I think you guys know that. I'm not a tech guy. He's a tech guy. And it led him to AI, artificial intelligence. And so we're going to be talking about that as well. Now, he's also a man of faith, as you all know that I am. And so who knows where this conversation is going to go. But this is fun. So, hey, Titus, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too. So why don't we just start off by, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? You told me before I hit the record button that you were married and have kids, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to get into every detail, but give us a good idea of who you are and what you're about.
Well, I am Titus. I was raised in the church, but I really didn't start walking with Jesus, day by day until about 5 years ago. I started wearing this t-shirt. It's called Jesus Wants You in Heaven. Yeah. I wear it every single day. I've worn that for 1,800 plus days. And it's been afforded me the opportunity to talk to lots and lots of people about Jesus. So that's been awesome. I stopped being ashamed of Jesus 5 years ago, and now I'm crazy for Jesus. Maybe too crazy. I don't know. And I have a wife and 4 kids. And 5 years ago, we set out to just start seeing what God wanted. So I interviewed for preaching positions. Eventually, we got into New Zealand and we did mission work there. I did pretty much street evangelism, hosting events, all kinds of great things. So it was a wonderful time. And now we're back in the United States.
So let's talk about New Zealand. How is New Zealand different than the States? I've never been there. And, how receptive are they to the Christian message, a biblical worldview, the gospel? Talk a little bit about that, Titus.
That's a good question. Yeah, I didn't know what I was getting into. I just talked to some people over there. When I got there, it's a country that's free from any danger. So there's no dangerous animals. There's beautiful nature. Pretty much there's every reason to be happy and satisfied, but they're not. There's this kind of this malaise, this general malaise, a lot of suicide there. And so as I went out talking to people, they've been conditioned and taught that Jesus is a fantasy, the Bible is a fairy tale. And so that has happened. It used to be a Christian nation. In fact, if you listen to their national anthem, it's all about God. So now it's deviated from that. And so I think what God allowed me to see is America, the future of America, where people started out as a Christian nation and then kind of God has been just ripped out and created into a fantasy tale. And so what happens is when I talk to people, they would be like, it's just pretend. I can't believe you believe that. There's no such thing as Noah. Jesus just made up. And as you talk to them about Jesus and what he taught, it just opens up their mind and it's new. So even though they have hard hearts, they have a hard heart to a Christian message that is not the true message, which is that Jesus loves us, and that he calls us to love and forgive others. And a lot of people have just been kind of hammered in this wrong message. So that's crazy.
That is. So why did you guys choose New Zealand?
It chose us. We were looking around, I was interviewing at churches. Like we talked about Luke 14, it's hard in the church today. So many people are about comfort, and discomfort is where growth comes from. So a lot of churches didn't like what I did because I was like, let's go out there. Let's tell about Jesus. Let's not be ashamed. let's tell everyone we can in our whole city. And everybody was like, well, let's just sit and listen to a preacher. So I wasn't resonating too well with that audience. So I found a group of Christians in New Zealand, and they were interested in that, going out and being active in their faith. And so that's what got us out there.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was just reviewing a Gallup poll. It's not super young, but it's not super old. I think it's, if I remember right, it's somewhere around 10, about a decade. And you know how Gallup works is they take a sample size that's large enough so that they can do their statistical analysis and bring some deductions from that. And so their basic question around the world was: Are you thriving? Are you struggling? Or are you suffering? And 25% of the world's population said that they were thriving. And just what I know about myself and what I know about society in general is when we're thriving, it seems that it becomes more difficult for us to keep God central in our thinking and in our dependency and in our honor and all those things. And sometimes it gets as simple as, doing a yay God, thank you for all the blessings, that I have, and you don't really need to go from there. But then when you got 8 billion people on the planet, that's a big number, right? That's a big number. And then it talked about the majority of, and I don't remember the percentage. I think it was like 63%. And so I think that would leave 12%. So if my math is right, yeah, I think that's right. So 63% consider themselves struggling. And of course, we're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that basic human foundation, right, of shelter, food, clothing, general health opportunities, basic relationships, water, that kind of thing. But it's funny how these things parallel, though, to spirituality, eventually. So 63% of 8 billion people struggling. That's a lot of people. And then 12% said that they were suffering. And again, I should know that number, but what is 12% of 8 billion? I don't know, but it's a lot of people. And so, yeah, in the States, in New Zealand, and other well-established countries, I would imagine standing on the street corners and trying to evangelize is a pretty tough gig.
Well, it is. And, like you mentioned, Jesus said life's not going to be easy, right? So those who kind of look to the easy life, it's a hard time. It's hard to be there because you get comfortable. And it says in the Bible, wide is the way and easy is the path that leads to destruction. I find that also just even health. For example, if you just sit around and you don't exercise, what happens? You get unhealthy because it's easy to sit around. It's hard to work out. So there, I think they've got everything they need. In fact, the government pays for everything. There's very few homeless. If you don't work, they pay you. So they have all they need, and yet suicide is so high. So you have to ask yourself, if you had all you needed, why would you be unhappy? And that's because you don't have the one thing you need, which is Jesus.
Yeah, you don't have purpose. Yeah, you don't have faith, and you don't have faith in a person versus a something, a philosophy, or what have you. It's funny that you say that, Titus, because I don't know that this was true, but we're going to go way back. I'm in my 60s now, and I was in my mid 20s, and I was killing it in the banking world. And I don't know how else to say it. I was in the right place at the right time with the right people, and everything was going my way. And my mom told me, because I too was raised in a Christian home. My mom said to me, it was over the phone, I remember it, and she said, "My one concern for you, Jimmy," that's what my mom calls me even to this day. "My one concern for you, Jimmy, is money." Money. And it offended me, at the moment. It offended me at the moment. But once you're in banking for a while, it doesn't take long to recognize all the things that you and I are talking about. And really, God is trying to save us from that trap if we'll have ears to hear. So that is interesting. And now that I think about it, the things that have happened to me in my life, I don't know that I was going after it. I think it found me too, which is an interesting phraseology that you used, to describe that. So you also said, all right, so we'll back up even before you selling everything 5 years ago and going on this journey to New Zealand. Odd story. Never heard anything like it. Um, but so what were you doing before then? You said that you've been in technology, but what were you doing in technology?
Well, like in the 90s, I created one of the first e-commerce sites that sold swords. So I sold swords online. That became very successful. And then I got into the iPhone, did a top 15 app on the App Store. And then I got into consulting and helping companies. So I was doing startups. I did a thing called Pitch Podcast, Job Compass, all kinds of things. So in fact, that day that I can remember this I drifted away from God pretty much. I mean, I got so comfortable that I became God. I took care of myself, made my own money, made my own future. So I was kind of going back to Bible studies and saying, like, I'm going to show how pathetic God is to these people, right? Like these Christians. That's actually how I felt. Went to a Bible study and we were doing a Bible study and a lot of Christians don't have a strong understanding of their faith. They're not dedicated to it. So hypocrisy is rampant. And so that was really turned me off. That's what really turned me away. Yeah. And so as I'm in this Bible study, I print out a verse about the pearl of great price. And it was like this merchant looked around, he knew all the pearls, but he found this one. He's like, this is the most valuable one. So I was on a call with the company in Europe and they're like, we want to, give you some money for a startup. I said, right, this is where I am. I can remember this. And I see the verse on the wall where I'd put it. And I thought, you know what? 30 years from now, 20 years from now, I'll be really rich. But what will I have sacrificed? Like time with my family, all this stuff. And when I die, what does it really matter? And so I realized that I was chasing all these startup little pearls. And the real pearl was Jesus. and he started that up in zero, in the year zero, 33. That's when that startup happened, the Jesus startup. So I was like, that's the one I want to put my time into. That's the one I put my life into. So that's where I got to that point.
Yeah, you seem a pretty quick-witted guy, and so entrepreneurialism, you seem to lean towards that, dealing with all the bureaucracy of a big company and corporate America. Yeah, I could see you'd be like a caged gorilla, in that situation. Part of my ministry and my life is coaching executives in all walks of life, from ministry to nonprofits to for-profits to and to even entrepreneurs and athletes. And it doesn't take me too long to kind of figure out who I'm talking to. So you definitely seem like to be a high octane, kind of guy, which could be really, really good and could be really, really bad. Right? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that helps the audience understand, that you're, you're a guy who knows how to turn a buck. You launch onto ideas pretty well. So when did you first hear the term artificial intelligence and begin educating us on that, the history of it? Where is it today? Where is it going? What's good about it? What's bad about it? Let's just chat back and forth about that, because I'm super interested and I know a lot of people are.
Yeah, I heard about many, many years ago. It's not the AI that we know today, but it's a completely different time. But even before ChatGPT came out, I created something called the AI resume, and it was kind of intelligent, and it learned about a company and kind of positioned your resume so that you could be the best you in front of that person, got data, all this stuff. But it's more like automation than it is AI. So that got me into AI. But the new AI, the one that's today, the game changer, I would say, is the one that replaces humans. Like it's a cognitive AI. It's an AI that can be creative. It's still driven by our spark. We still spark the creativity, but it creates everything from that spark. And so there's only a matter of time before that spark becomes the AI sparking it.
So yeah, let me interrupt here. So are you saying that my novice view of AI being a turbocharged Google is off base, because a turbocharged Google to me is that we're just putting more and more information into a funnel, and we have the ability to write software where it relates one thing to another and comes out in an organized fashion, a language that speaks to us. But you're actually saying that in some verbiage, if I'm hearing you right, at least where I think you're going, is that this thing can take on a life of its own?
Yeah, I would say that it's possible it would seem like a life of its own, like kind of like a snowball, right? Once you get it going down the hill, you see it roll by, you're like, that thing's just going on its own, man. So there's a spark, obviously, that like life itself, the spark starts. But this technology we have today could be sparked and continue on its own, doing its own thing. And that hasn't happened before. It's like the car, right? We're the horse, AI and technology is the car. People think that we're the person who makes the horse saddles. No, we're the horse. AI is the car. So in the past, we needed our cognitive abilities to direct and guide the horse and then build the car. But in the future, you can set out a task, and once those tasks are done, the computer can just take it on, like make a car. Well, with 3D printing and all the access to technology it has, it'll be able to build a car. There'll come a point eventually where you have a problem like make us happy or whatever, and that will be a task the AI can set out doing. But it may have repercussions we don't expect.
So in other words, the cause and effect is still in play. It's just that this effect is becoming more exponential than we once thought possible.
Yeah, I would say that, the spark of knowledge now we're passing on to machines. We've held it for a long time, the spark of creativity, all of that, but I think that that's continuing to transition now. Because I talk to my kids and they're like, is ChatGPT creative? You can ask ChatGPT, are you creative? It'll say no, but look at what it can make. Now, of course, they say, well, they're making it from things we've made as humans. But what do you think everybody's done? Every writer, artist, they've used other things that other people have done. Nature itself.
What are the arguments, concerns, against AI?
You mean like that we shouldn't do it or something? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. The protests, because even there's even some media leanings that are saying, "Oh, AI is bad. Stay away from it." I mean, you already mentioned one. I think on the front end, or it might have been before I hit record, but it will replace basically anybody that uses a computer for their livelihood. There'll be no need for that. So some say, oh, it's going to wipe out jobs. So that's one of the obvious things. But anything that has wiped out jobs, at least in our history, has just been, what would you say, released a whole nother realm of jobs, hasn't it? Or is that an oversimplification? But what are some of the main things that you are hearing, whether it be from believers, because I think a lot of them can come from believers, as well as the society as a whole? What are the main things that you hear that you can debunk, and what are the things that you hear that that's a concern?
Well, like Zuckerberg, from Meta was saying, it's not going to replace jobs; it's going to enhance jobs. These are people who are making AI. Listen, take it to the end. What are they really trying to make? A replacement for humans, because humans cost money. Humans are unreliable. Humans get sick. They're moody. If you could determine right now, let's say you have a business, and I said, listen, do you want to keep hiring people and all that headache? Or do you want to hire this one thing that will never give you a headache and will get smarter and smarter and smarter and grow and grow and grow and get better and better and better? You're going to do that. So the reason all the money's flowing into AI is not for our benefit as humans. It's for the benefit of the people who are creating AI, because eventually AI will be. I one day drove through Silicon Valley. I looked around all these buildings, all these big companies, and I thought this was years ago, and I thought, wow, one day it's not going to be buildings. It's going to be one server that runs $1 billion company. So it's happening. It's now, folks. Like, now's the time. So what you said, what advice do I have when I talk to people? Get right with God and get food. Those are two things that are important, right? The food and God is first, food is second. So if I would tell any of you who have a job now that think, no, Titus, not going to replace me, just wait, because ChatGPT is only in version 4. This is like the very, 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 very first computer back in the 60s or 70s, like huge, giant thing, so slow, you had to put a punch card in.
My first, you can't call it a laptop. I can't even think of the brand. But it looked like a sewing machine, like those portable sewing machines that maybe your grandmother had, and it was heavy. You could literally throw out your back, pulling it out of the trunk of your car. And then the screen was kind of like those first Apple, computers. And then you literally I think the best I ever did was maybe 40 words a minute, something like that. And I'm typing way beyond the screen. I would type a sentence and sit there and watch it catch up to me. Boom, 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 boom. And of course it had the floppy, right? That you would stick in. It wouldn't even have the non-floppy floppy. whatever, whatever you want to call it. All right. You're going too fast for me, Titus. You got to back up. So,
Okay.
all right. So for those that are listening, and we've only heard sound bites of AI, and maybe we haven't even used the chat GPT. Let's start with some mundane things. What are some mundane things that AI can do for the person? Even though you've said, this, you're going to have a server that's going to be able to run $1 billion company. Okay, I don't want to go there yet. Right?
Right.
That's too big of a chasm for me to cross. Maybe I'll cross it in 5 minutes, but let's go back to what are some everyday uses for AI that you think is healthy for people to try.
Okay. Well, I'll preface this by obviously God's word, and focusing on that is the most important thing, right?
Correct.
But let's say that there are a lot of people who aren't Christians out there, which there are. ChatGPT can help you just by helping comfort you in your loneliness, help you overcome things like you can say, hey, I want to overcome being angry, or look at your emails, and be like, hey, how can I rewrite this so it's not passive aggressive? It can also help you get motivated and structure your plan, like, for example, an exercise plan, a weight loss, anything that you would ask a coach for, that's what you can get help in. Also, anything that you'd want to be better at, like I want to learn how to code. My son is using ChatGPT to help him through Roblox development. And that's amazing because now, think of it this way, anything that you need help with, you could probably get help with from ChatGPT. That's what it is. I mean, it's so broad. I talked to a guy who made a business. He was like in real estate. He knows nothing about AI, but he's using AI to build a bot that he sells to other people. Unreal. I know technology. I know coding. Like, I could build startups. You don't need that anymore. You can build a startup with AI, with ChatGPT. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What about the argument of plagiarism? So if I say to Chat, let's just call him Chat for short. If I say to Chat, hey, I need a 5-page paper on this topic with references, done in college writing format, and boom. I don't even have to read the stinking book. I don't even have to do the research. So how are we going to deal with that?
You can't. I mean, they don't even have capability to analyze. Even OpenAI couldn't analyze whether it was made by OpenAI. They're trying to put watermarks in things and images, but it's harder to do in text because you can remove it out. So yeah, you're not going to deal with it.
Yeah. What will this do to the human mind, do you think? Does it partner with us? Does it make us dumber? Does it make us smarter? What do you think? I mean, it kind of goes back to this argument of, some parents are really upset that schools aren't teaching kids how to write cursive, anymore. And then I'm thinking to myself, a lot of kids don't even know how to write, period, and I mean, we have symbols and all kinds of things in the computers and whatnot. But I mean, from your vantage point, does it make us better? Is this more of you think of a Christian worldview where it is a substitution for, and once it runs its course, it takes us to the end, and it will be our enemy? I mean, I'm not expecting you to know the answers to those, but what's in your head?
Initially, I thought it was good. When I wrote the book, AI to the Rescue, that was last year. I thought this is awesome. As I watch it grow now over the past year, I realize this is the end. This is the end of what we know. This is a new time. It's a time, if all the jobs get eliminated, what do people do? And you said, well, Titus, does it help us become better? We haven't become better for centuries.
Right.
If you look at what's happening today, people are getting more and more into entertainment, more and more into the metaverse, or areas outside of the reality of where we live. We're escaping Ready Player One kind of idea. People are escaping this world because this world has nothing to offer.
Yeah,
so AI is just going AI is just going to accelerate that so that it can do all the work for us, so that we can then escape into this world where it's meaningless. No one's getting smarter. It's not
That's
happening.
yeah. That's why I asked the question. I mean, you are entangled in it, right? I mean, it is. So you told me before I hit record that today you consult on powerful and profitable ways to use AI with companies. So you came back from New Zealand and you ran out of money, right? You spent all your money on your we can at least call it a mission trip, right? And that you were following your faith, you're following your convictions, you're following the Lord. And okay, you ran out of money, so time to go home, regroup, I guess is a way to say it. And you got to make tents, and
That's right.
like Paul did. Am I too far off here? And
No.
so, okay, and so you're consulting these companies. So, can you share what that practically looks like? You help a certain company. You give some examples. You help a certain company do what with AI exactly?
Okay, a lot of times it's getting rid of the big pain that they have, and usually the pain is repetitive tasks. So, for example, one company I'm helping, they constantly respond to emails, customer support, always the same. Like 90% of them, the same answer all the time, but it takes a lot of time to just copy paste, copy paste. So I made an AI mind that learns all these templates, and then whether it's a chat on the website or an email coming in, it will respond to that with the template, or it will, kind of further it up the process to a human being. So it's able to
Okay.
handle a lot of that stuff. But there's so many things.
Yeah. So, okay. So I already experienced that today. How many times do I end up in a chat room because I don't know how to do this with my Mac, or I don't know how to do this with something that breaks in the house or whatever. And it takes me to a company that takes me to a chat room. I put in keywords. I don't realize I'm putting in keywords. I'm not thinking in computer jargon, but that's what I'm doing. I'm putting in keywords, and then artificial intelligence matches those words with a template that takes a guess at directing me. Sometimes it's right on, sometimes it's way off, but I guess that's the evolution, if you will, of the process.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these chatbots are pretty basic these days. Companies haven't
Yeah.
implemented the latest technology. A couple other cases are I made a program that, when you're applying for jobs, you can actually it'll analyze the specific job listing. It'll take your job resume. It'll restructure it so that it fits for that job. It'll do all of this for you automatically, and then provide you with a custom resume every time. Also, I can take our chat here, convert it into Spanish, Chinese, German. So now you
What?
can reach all those people. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I
Yeah.
need to learn. I need to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
awesome.
all right. So I ran into an ethical issue, if not, it's probably not illegal now that I think about it, but it's certainly ethical. And so let me ask you about that. So, with your podcast, that's the Today Counts show, obviously, we're in the business to grow the podcast. We're we, our audience is primarily those who have a Christian worldview, or they're looking into it, and we address things of life and leadership. So that's pretty broad, right? Life and leadership. Now, um, once our podcast got discovered, if you will, if we went from not being known to being somewhat known, then I noticed I was attacked by every possible company you can think of all around the world who said they can help me grow my podcast. And when I look to my left and I look to my right in my neighborhood, so to speak, in my marketplace, nobody knows how to do it. And so that seemed tempting. So I went ahead and gave one group an opportunity, and I did a 2 week trial with them. It cost me hardly nothing, and just like that, the downloads went through the roof. Now
Hmm.
that was very suspicious to me. So what I decided to do, because I don't know if you know anything about temperament, but I probably have the same temperament as Thomas. And so I tend to look at things with, I'm not buying that. So what I did is I cut it off, which they were confused why I would cut off such an increase in downloads. Well, because I didn't believe, I don't know the terminology. I don't know technology. I don't get all of that, but something that didn't feel like. So my thought was, all right, if it grew by, 400% in 2 weeks, then I'm going to guess that at least 10% of that 400% would come back and listen again. Somebody's got to like it out of all of those. Those are all enthusiasts. They're podcast enthusiasts with just a certain kind of, hey, here's this, and they jump in. There's got to be some who come back. None came back.
Yeah.
So then I said, and by the way, this group was in Bangladesh. And so I sent them a note. I'm saying, I'm having trouble understanding this. And then I just did a little bit, and I'm going to turn back over to you in a second. Then I just did a little bit of research, and I found an article that another podcaster had written, just a little short blurb. And she did not know how to explain it either, but she had kind of the same conclusion I did, and she used the term bots. And I hadn't heard the term bots. Obviously, I know it's short for robot, but maybe, I don't know. That's kind of what I thought. So then I said, "Are you using bots?" And so let's just say they were. Let's just say they were, Titus. How does that work? How does a bot download fake? How does a bot create fake downloads of a podcast?
Well, they just hack into the page. They log in. They just download it. They can act like a human on the browser. They can click things. They can download stuff. So yeah, the reason you would know it's not a bot is the engagement. So that's harder to do. So if you could watch the number of listens and how long that listen ratio has gone, and if it stops and it continues to taper down, look, naturally it's like this, isn't it? If it goes like this, then there's something wrong with it. It's artificial. And plus, if it's too good to be true, like honestly, if you could pay them $100 and they'd make you famous, that's got to be some catch.
Right. Sometimes it just comes back to common sense, right? Basic common sense. But isn't it interesting though? Going back to we aren't getting better, right? That is a comment that you made. I believe that there is a theology that, of course, disagrees with that because that would say that we are in the millennial, so to speak, and during the 1,000-year millennial without the physical presence of Christ, that we will be getting better. Well, we're certainly not in the millennial then because we're not getting better. And I think what, troubled me, I'm one of those guys that besides other reading that I do, I'm kind of old fashioned in the sense that whatever the day of the week is, that's the chapter in Proverbs, that I read. I forget who kind of turned me on to that, but I was a young man and been doing it most of my life, not every day of my life, but most of my life. And when you read the book of Proverbs as a leader, it really shapes you. It sharpens what is ethical and what is not ethical. It keeps you out of the gray. I'm not saying that there isn't gray, there isn't philosophy. I'm not making that statement. But when you are involved in real-time relationships, real-time business decisions, you're trying to read whether you're dealing with a shyster or somebody that is, Proverbs use the term shrewd, man, become shrewd, all these kinds of things. What made me sad about that story about Bangladesh that I told you about is it's just amazing to me that there are humans that would just steal, from humans and make a business out of it. I know there's thugs in the street, that do that. And I know that there are people that try to get elderly people to follow a click funnel into trouble. And that just blows me away. And so I guess for me, to kind of answer the question myself, what scares me about where AI is going is the people that it can hurt, even though I don't know how it's exactly going to do that. Apparently it can. I think it can tell us lies because now correct me if I'm wrong, it's only going to be as good as what's been put into it somewhere. Where are the entry points to AI? Who puts it in?
Yeah, they train on data, so they don't give information about what that data is. Supposedly it's a corpus of humanity, but of course it's going to be huge gaps. Any ancient material that's not been digitized, anything that's in different languages is harder to get. So it's really just if you want to think about it, the Western knowledge, and then as they get in more better languages, and do things, they'll get it in there. But it's just a synthesis of all that we have. But we have the Bible. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. But do you believe that it to this? Okay. So there's a motive. There's a motive to AI. Is it as pure as efficiencies?
No, I don't think the AI has a motive. It's just a tool, but it's become a tool of a cognitive tool, like a thinking tool. And the motive behind it can be, they can manipulate the data that's going into it, but ultimately can it perform tasks? Do you work on a computer? And if you work on a computer, AI will replace you. It's as simple. So it's not about motive per se. And I think the motive would be to replace humans, because why wouldn't you? Like, literally, link it through. What is the purpose of AI? To replace us? Why not? Like, what else would it do? Make me better? So it's going to have me when you talked about typing on the computer and you said it was behind you?
Yeah.
That's AI with us. We're way behind AI. It's like, come on. What's taking so long? Wow. It's the other way around. It's switched around, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now myself. I gotta tell you, I was feeling guilty doing research on AI. Why did I feel guilty?
I think, there's the same thing about why they use their phone all the time, right? If you're old enough, you might be like, I don't need to be on this phone all the time. But unfortunately, I saw a guy in his 60s playing Candy Crush on his phone. Like, This is a guy, he should know better than that. Why is he wasting his time on this stuff? Because technology is very addictive. So for you, it's just about, isn't it about easy? Isn't it? That's all it's about. Like, if I told you, hey, Jim, if you want to, you can make your podcast in the top 10. All you got to do is type this prompt. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, you're like, go ahead, AI, go do it for me. I don't have to trust a team in India or a team here and guess on this. I just assign the task to a bot that is intelligent. The bots they use are not intelligent. Their bots are click here, download, click here, download. That's their bot. The other bot would be one that has agents that are all working together and saying, okay, let's see how Twitter's going. How's the podcast going? Let's look at the analytics. Let's adjust this. Let's adjust this. Let's make this. Let's tell Jim to do this. That's different than a bot. I'm not even real, by the way. This is an AI.
Yeah. Yeah. I was about to say, is this really Titus?
Yeah. No, I was thinking the other day, you have to say certified organic, but it's got to be for people. Like our discussion right now, one day will have to be certified organic. That means that we will know that for a fact you and I had this discussion and it was really you and me.
And looking into that, how will that be verified?
It's a patch on a sinking ship. Who cares? Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, one day, Jim, you're going to be tired and say, hey, just go interview Titus for me automatically. It'll train on all your old podcasts. It'll ask all the questions, say, I'm really interested in Titus's AI stuff. And I'll think it's you, and it won't even be you.
Yeah. Crazy.
And then my AI will be talking to you. So you and I will be on a beach and run into each other when we're supposed to be on a podcast.
So we're body surfing in the ocean somewhere. Wow. Our AI. Okay. Okay. We're
laughing, but it's the reality of what's happening. And that's why I said, number one, get right with Jesus. And number two, find a source of food. And this is just a good thing, right? Like if you have a lot of money right now and you're listening to this podcast, get involved in a farm, like get yourself some food for your family. And that's what I'd say. And, but first of all, if you have food and not Jesus, you got nothing. So you got to get Jesus first. That's my little bit.
That's great. No, that's good. It's making me think about how to use my acreage here at the house.
Do it, man. Start growing some trees. Get some orchard going. You can help people, right? The cool part about Christians is if the world comes to an end, Christians love people. We're called by Jesus to help people. Do you think everybody else is going to do that?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to do that.
Right. Well, we saw that in the pandemic. We saw a portion of the world that was probably really trying to help, but it looked to me like the vast majority, it was every man for himself. Right? No toilet paper, no water, no canned foods left. Everything just kind of shut down. Okay. So what about the children? How are they going to learn how to read and write? Is that not a concern?
Forget read and write. How about how they're going to live? Like, see, I have children, and I'm like, how am I going to teach them for this world? Like, my son is watching him being replaced as he's learning to code. Like, he was excited about doing Roblox. He's like, this is going to be exciting. Now he's watching. He's like, I won't even be able to do Roblox because some kid will just type in, make a game, and it'll be done. So it's not about reading and writing. That would be a luxury. It's more about what are they going to do with their life. That's it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, who cares about reading and writing? Like, reading and writing serves to do what? To produce meaningful content or to do something, to engage in the world. If you don't have to engage in the world, they're just going to go right into a fake world. They're going to go into, what do you think the Vision Pro is? The Vision Pro, if we believe that the devil is real, which I do, and those of you listening might not, but there is an evil force called the devil in this world, and he doesn't care about you or I. He cares about you suffering. So what he's going to do is he's going to drive you from reality into a fake world that looks like it's great, but it's not, like the Matrix.
It's funny it's funny that you say that about suffering, because that's the first point of my outline for Sunday. Is this not just that they're suffering in this world, but that there's somebody that uses suffering to crush us and mock God.
Yes,
and that that's a lot of people. God love them. They don't like looking at that because to them that's negative. To them that's dark. But when I work with executives, one of the things we start with is, hey, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because unless we can talk about that, we can't really talk about anything else. In other words, you have to ground yourself in truth. You have to ground yourself in reality. And then what comes from that is some sort of God-given hope, a direction. And then you start taking the other tools that God's given you, like strategy and whatnot, that you work towards that. But okay, I think I'm following you with reading and writing, but somehow this would have to preserve language, would it not? Or blow my brain with that? Or we're not going to need.
Are people communicating more or less now?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, they're only communicating via a screen. One day, they won't know if they're communicating with a real person or a fake person.
Yeah.
They'll probably like the fake person better because they won't get angry. They won't get frustrated. They'll always tell them positive. And so they'll choose non-humanity over humanity. Like, this is the hard part, man, is I think that this is a juncture in time where we have to be like, as Christians, that the reality of our world is not real. Like, this is not real. Like, we're making these fake worlds so that we can ebb our life away and we can die in a game. But the devil wants that. Oh, those of you listening and watching, he wants you to ebb your life away and waste it away in a game and a distraction. And Jesus wants us to use our life to love people, to engage with real people. So it's real versus unreal. The unreal is, I would say, evil, and the real is Jesus. And Jesus, what did he say? I am the way, the truth, and the life. You're not going to find the way, truth, or life in anything else. And how happy, by the way, those kids watching this probably are other people, adults who play computer games. How happy are you when you play your computer game? Like, how really happy are you? Is it just a distraction? Same for movies. Is it just a distraction?
No, they're locked in. They're almost in a trance state.
Yes.
They get so locked in that I really believe that they're not simply ignoring the stimuli outside of them. They're able to block it out, and they are so fixed on what they're doing as an escape.
It's awesome though. Like, you like movies, right? You watch the movie, you've maybe played a game. Like, compare reality to a game, reality to a movie. Why do you think people call it escape? They escape from their normal life because what Jesus has to offer us is something greater than these entertainment things, Wow. But it's not easy, by the way. You're not going to be all happy and sunshine and rainbows, folks, because my life, I'm not this happy guy all the time, but I have a joy that lasts outside of any understanding of the pain. That's hard to have.
Yeah. How's your consulting business going, if I can ask?
It's slow because I'm being replaced by AI. It's true. Literally, I will level with you right now. And I don't know why God has put me in this position, but I sold all I had. I trusted that he would provide. And he has not provided in the way that I expected, which is great because that's what God does. He does what he wants, not what I want. Mm-hmm. And I get to learn from that. But I applied to 800 companies with my skills. I've written a book on AI. I know I can build anything. And I have had 0 companies. And I think, what's the problem here? Maybe my age. And I thought, maybe God has put me in this position to be ready to tell people that this is coming. If I can be replaced, you can too. And you might not believe it, but it's possible. So I literally DoorDash. I do Spark right now to pay our bills. And so I don't even know why I'm in this position. But I know that here's the thing. If I want to blame God, it means I don't understand God. Because the Bible says God is so far from us. His thoughts are so far as the heavens are from the earth. So this has been a great opportunity for my faith to draw closer to God in my lack of understanding.
Well, that's how the enemy mocks God, though, is to get you to blame God, right?
Boom.
Yeah, and he loves that, right? He loves to see the children rebel. He loves to see the children isolate. Well, I think the first step is isolation. He gets us isolated, and you're right. And that's a podcast for another day. Talk about your book. I'm really enjoying this, Titus. You're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind. I have to be honest. I'm having a hard time, staying up with you. The only coding I ever did, just to date this old man, was back in 1970, probably 8 or 9, where I learned to. We didn't even call it coding. What did we call it? But you had to do that. You had to figure out the equations for figuring out batting averages, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, and it was, and the computer program was BASIC. It was called BASIC. We learned a little COBOL. That I'm dating myself, and I remember when I asked myself the question, why am I doing this when this has already been done? That was the extent of my curiosity at that point. But talk to us about your book, AI to the Rescue. What is it about? Is it in more in depth than what we're talking about, or is it like a step-by-step for business owners, or what is it about?
Yeah, it's mostly about how to use AI in your life in a positive way. And when I wrote that book, I didn't realize what it was going to become. They're going to come out and chat probably GPT-5 soon or whatever. And it's going to be agents that do things on your computer, all this stuff. You talked about when you started in BASIC, which was 30, 40 years ago, let's say, or more. So it took 40 years to get where we are today on this computer. Every year we're progressing at that volume with AI. So it's not going to be 40 years from now. So yeah, for my book, if you want to read a book that tells you about practical ways to apply AI today, it does not apply for the future. I'm thinking about writing another book called AI Apocalypse, because seriously, we need to be. I'm living this out right now, folks. I have a degree from Pepperdine. I have done startups. I've sold businesses for millions of dollars, done all these things, and I'm door dashing. That's going to be you. Okay. Yeah. So literally, that's why I'm trying to help people. I'm learning this. God's put me in this position, hopefully so I can be a light and just people to look up and get food and then give to people,
Yeah. Okay. And so we can get that book, AI to the Rescue, on Amazon, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about being a Jesus freak for a minute.
Okay.
So, a lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues, and a lot of my clients will listen to this podcast, and they know I love them. They know that I love them. But when we run across a Jesus freak, right? And for those of you who are listening to this and you're not watching it, you got to see what Titus is wearing. He's got a hat that's got Jesus all over it. He's got a T-shirt that's got Jesus all over it. I can't keep him focused on AI or this or that, because he wants to make sure that you all know what is really, really important. And I know I've been trying to hold back the floodgates, for this, and I want you to know my motive is what do you think what happened? It sounded to me like you kind of did the classic prodigal son thing. You were raised in a good place, right? And in order for humans to thrive, they've got to be, or flourish, I should say, they have to be in a place that's thriving. Thriving places give opportunity for humans to flourish. So you were in that kind of environment, it sounded like, and then you experienced some success outside of that environment, maybe, and then that kind of took you on your drive into the city, so to speak, and then you came home. You talked about it a little bit, but I don't think you talked about it to the extent that you probably want to. And I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, I just think it's real simple because I talk to kids at university all the time. Many are depressed, sad, and suicidal, whether they admit it or not, because this world has nothing to offer. Zero. Was it TikTok? Flipping through stuff. So what is it? Well, it's just a question. Was Jesus a real person? And did he rise from the dead? If he rose from the dead, what does that look like in your life? If you believe truly that Jesus rose from the dead, then nothing else matters. All that matters in life is that you tell the world this good news. Because if it is truly good news, it means that this dead end life that everyone has, we all have a dead end life. We're all going to die. This dead end life is not all there is. That's just the beginning. In fact, to a Christian, we live to die. Everyone else is dying to live. But we live to die, because when we die, we're free. We're free. And so our mission here as Christians on this planet is to be a light in this darkness. That's it. That's the greatest thing. That's what I missed. When you said thriving, whatever, I wasn't thriving because I wasn't around people who were not ashamed of Jesus. They just tucked away. They just tucked away and they just performed their little things on Sunday and they lived their normal life and their comfortable life through the week. I wanted people.
They're professionals. They're professionals. They weren't the disciples that we looked at when on the front end of this podcast, where they're willing to say goodbye. I like how my version says that. In the same way, therefore, every one of you who does not say goodbye to all his possessions cannot be my disciple. That's radical. It's crazy.
Well, if you don't say goodbye to your possessions, then your possessions own you. That's what Jesus said. He taught this stuff. And you know what? You can look at my life and say, Titus, you've sold everything. Look at you DoorDashing. And I'll say, you know what? Every single day I have to wrestle with my faith in God. How about you?
Yeah.
How about you? What have you given up to cause you to have faith in God?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I think we, because we're so pragmatic as humans, we can be anyway. Part of us can be anyway, that we still have that, that equation, that if we do this, we should get that, and we still have that, and Scripture does talk about reaping and sowing, and a lot of people, view reaping and sowing as a negative. They shouldn't, because that's not the whole idea of agriculture. The whole idea of agriculture is reaping fruit, right? Reaping fruit, but what is the God, that we are seeking? So then the reaping and sowing then is directly attached to the God that we are sowing into, right? The soil that we are sowing into. And, I work with a lot of really great folks, but maybe some of us are trying too hard to walk this tightrope instead of just going all in and saying, hey, whatever you want me to do, whatever attitude you want me to have, whatever action you want me to take, teach me, help me, and I'll follow. And then what you're suggesting is that though you're doing door dashing right now, and I love how you're being honest, you're probably having some secret thoughts in your head from time to time. God, I did this, so where the heck are you?
That's right.
Now, right?
Yep.
Where the heck are you? And I'll share. And many already know my story, but yeah, I did the same thing. I walked away at age 27. I won't go into all the detail there. It's in my new book coming out called Stories, but and probably around 40, 45, I started adding things up, and I'm going, where is my reward? Where's my reward? So I think that's human, and I think that's natural, but it just, what it does, folks, when you have these thoughts like Titus running around delivering food that's cold, because no matter how hard he tries, it's going to come cold. I only order DoorDash when I get back to my hotel and everything is closed and I have no car, and then I eat whatever that is and I just put it in my stomach. Anyway, I digress. it's okay to have those confessions, because what they do once they take their courses, you usually go deeper and
Yeah.
you embrace it even more. And you say, hey, this is a choice that I have made, and I'm proud of that choice. And I would do it again. Or maybe I would do it a little bit differently, but the spirit of it would be the same. It'd be the same. And we need to have these conversations as brothers in the faith. We need to have these things because we borrow faith from one another. And sometimes one of us is running the race and we're running like we're sprinting and we're not gasping. And some of us are doing our best just to keep moving our feet. And sometimes we have the ability to support one another in that. Well, Titus, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, and I've had so much fun that I think I want to knight you as one of our ambassadors to continue to inform us about AI. And
Okay.
so since it's changing so fast, I would love to have you back on the show as a perennial guest to teach us if you
I,
are okay with that.
I love it. Yeah, because I want to equip you with what you need to help your kids and your friends and your family members, be prepared for this because it's a big deal.
Maybe that's what the next podcast is over is maybe we focus on the next generation, and really dive into that and see how we can guide versus getting taken by surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we can be part of the cause and not just running from the effect.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to say. Well,
Can
again,
I say
Titus,
can I say one more thing before we
oh,
go?
absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. If you're listening to this, you're on the fence with Jesus. Just know this, that he gave his life for you and he rose again. And if you believe he rose again, that's the biggest news you'll ever have. And hopefully that'll change your life. And those of you who are listening who believe that Jesus rose again, what is that? How is that being reflected in your life? Like the world should know. You should be happy and joyful. It doesn't mean you're going to have an easy life, but you're going to have the best life.
I'm going to end it right there. Thank you, Titus.
All right. God bless y'all.
If you're not part of the Lead Today community, let me invite you. Go to leadtodaycommunity.com. That's leadtodaycommunity.com and sign up for Monday Moments. It's a weekly email that will encourage your leadership. Again, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for telling a friend about the Today Counts show.